So they got Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew. Who's next? Who's next? I was reading the news out of London this morning that former Prince Andrew has been arrested by British police on suspicion of misconduct in public office related to his connections and activity with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm like, oh, wow, this is so much bigger. This is so much bigger than I think people realize. I mean, of course, there's the glaring contrast between this arrest and the fact that there have been no arrests in the United States except for Ghislaine Maxwell. A woman is sitting in prison and she's currently courting the president of the United States to try and get her sentence commuted. And the president of the United States, Donald Trump, keeps saying that the Epstein Files are a hoax. They're boring. We need to move on. He doesn't understand why people are interested. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, covering up everything. Massive, massive cover-up going on in the United States. Assisted by so many pedophile-protecting Republicans in Congress, especially Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, by Senator Lady Lindsey Graham, by Jim G.Y.M. Jordan, by James Comey, so many Republican men anxious to play protector for PDF File. But in the UK, they've arrested the former Prince Andrew. Because if you want to understand how monumental the arrest of a member of the British family is in connection to the Epstein Files, let me quote here from you Danica Kirka from the AP this morning. They say, it was the first time in nearly 4 centuries that a senior British royal was placed under arrest, and it underscored how deference to the monarchy has eroded in recent years. King Charles III, whose late mother lived by the motto, never complain, never explain, took the unusual step of issuing a statement on the arrest of his brother, now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Don't forget that Queen Elizabeth stripped him of his title because she knew what he did. Charles said, "Let me state clearly the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter." Seems pretty clear that the royal family is not going to protect Andrew. Meanwhile, in the United States, Republicans in Congress are protecting Donald Trump, Les Wexner, Howard Lutnick, Steve Tisch, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, like we could just go on and on and on, all currently being protected by Pam Bondi's Department of Justice and Republicans in Congress. The contrast is stark, y'all. It's stark. But as public pressure builds internationally, as other countries begin to investigate what's going on and make arrests, it's going to make it increasingly difficult. I mean, I think it's already made it impossible for Donald Trump's Department of Justice to try and sweep this under the rug and move on. And as long as we're talking about former Prince Andrew's arrest in connection to the Epstein Files, it reminds me of something that somebody said in my YouTube comments the day that this latest batch of files was released. A lot of people were despairing. It felt really overwhelming. Obviously, Pam Bondi and Donald Trump are doing their damnedest to make sure that nobody faces justice here in the United States. And also the dump of Epstein Files was done in a really confusing way. Documents that were translated from other languages into English may have mistranslations. Information that should not be redacted has been redacted to protect PDF files. They likewise exposed victims' private information, including posting CSAM on a government website, which God knows how many people downloaded before the New York Times had to tell them, like, hey, you've put CSAM on the internet and you've re-victimized victims. And then they were like, oh, our bad. Right? We live in a kakistocracy, and the incompetence is part of the malfeasance. The incompetence makes it easier for them to get away with violating the law, denying justice, corruption, all of the shit that they're doing. And so when these files were released, it felt for a lot of people like, well, okay, that's great. And I'm glad to see Democrats are pursuing justice, but is that ever going to happen? It felt pretty hopeless for a lot of people. And I had someone in my comments who was not from the United States saying, hey, friends, take comfort in the fact that the United States is not the only country in the world, and that all of these other investigative agencies and governments around the world now have access to all of this information. Right, because it's not just men in the United States, it's rich men all around the world. This is an international trafficking operation, and also international corruption, influence peddling on just like an unbelievable scale. And thank you to that person who left that comment. It was so encouraging for me in that moment to be reminded that we aren't actually alone. The American people feel very isolated because the regime is trying to isolate us from our friends abroad. But we have allies everywhere. There are people who will pursue justice elsewhere if our government will not. And that will help turn the tide here in the United States as well. So after they left that comment, I saw over the next several days that other countries announced that they were opening up investigations into the Epstein Files. According to Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, as of February 9th, and I've not seen an updated list, the following countries are currently investigating or are actively pushing their leaders to step down over their connections to the Epstein Files. The UK, Norway, Sweden, Slovakia, France, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Ireland. Again, here in the United States, Donald Trump is telling everybody, move on. It's a hoax. It's boring. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. And Pam Bondi is saying, I'm not going to continue to comply with the law. First of all, she never complied with the law well. But she said, I'm not going to release any more information. I refuse to. They are desperate to make this go away. They seem frantic and terrified because guess what? They've committed all kinds of heinous crimes, and all of that is finally coming to light. And our friends across Europe are helping us. They're helping us shine a light on what is going on. They're helping us pursue justice. And when I saw the news this morning of former Prince Andrew's arrest, I immediately thought of what Tim Snyder had to say on the issue.
Hey, I'm processing the news, including the Epstein news, here in Norway, where I am now. And I just wanted to note that here, criminal proceedings are already underway, and here, reporters are already making sense of parts of the story. I just wanted to note how refreshing that is and how normal that seems and how good it would be if we in the U.S. would also be able to proceed so quickly. And also wanted to note that we in the U.S., as we try to make sense of the Epstein story, are probably going to have to rely on some help from other countries where investigations, criminal and journalistic, are underway.
Right, that's exactly what I said. We have friends everywhere. While we in the United States are demanding justice, and it is being denied us by the federal government, by Donald Trump, by Pam Bondi, by Republicans in Congress, especially Speaker Mike Johnson, but a whole host of PDF file protectors in the Republican Party. Other countries are swiftly investigating and pursuing justice, and that is a help to us here in the United States. We know the way to topple authoritarians is mass public opposition. Both here and abroad, the way to get this investigation cracked wide open in the United States is mass public pressure here and abroad. The power lies with the people. The power lies in the fact that we have strength in numbers. And so to see other countries refusing to go along with the nonsense that the regime is pulling of engaging in a massive, massive cover-up. And let's be clear, it's been every president, every DOJ, every FBI since George Bush has been engaged in this. There has been information on the Epstein Files being collected, tips being sent into the FBI since George Bush. Bush, Obama, Biden, Trump, all of them knew shit was happening and nobody wanted to investigate. People all over the world knew that this was happening for decades and nobody was willing to investigate, even though we've had victims coming forward since the 90s. And now I think we're at a tipping point where there's no going back. There's no sweeping this under the rug. There is no hiding this. The pace of the investigation is accelerating as hard as the regime is trying to stop it here in the United States. Pam Bondi insisting she's not going to release any more information. Donald Trump saying, move along, nothing to see here. All of y'all are stupid for wanting to, he called us all stupid for wanting to have this information disclosed. He said it was a hoax. The former Prince Andrew has been arrested. Multiple countries are investigating, insisting that members of their government step down. This is not a hoax. This is a massive cover-up engaged in by Donald Trump and members of our government for years and years and years. And the time of justice is coming, and it's really important that we all continue to push for it because it's going to require everybody on board insisting that investigations happen, insisting that prosecutions happen. Without us, the people, none of this thus far would have happened at all. The Epstein Transparency Act, that's because you and all your friends and neighbors put public pressure on our elected officials. This is all driven by us, the people, and we have to continue to drive the investigation forward. Prince Andrew is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot more, and there have to be prosecutions in the United States. We accept nothing less than justice for every last one of these motherfuckers, every last one.